Video link. Danny Kruger.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I'm very glad of this opportunity to acknowledge my gratitude and respect for our armed forces, for all they do for peace and democracy and British interests abroad, and for our security and well-being at home, particularly during the last year when they've played such a vital role, often behind the scenes, in the fight against COVID. And I particularly honour the troops stationed at Tidworth and Bulford and the other bases in my constituency. Despite what it says on the gates of Aldershot, Salisbury Plain is the true home of the British Army, and I'm proud to represent it. Now, listening to the debate this evening, Mr. Deputy Speaker, it's been very good to see the House so united, and that is quite right. The Minister referred at the outset to the foundation of our modern parliamentary democracy in 1688, which is also the foundation of the British Army, which only exists because this House votes for it every 5 years. And the subjection of the armed forces to Parliament is the foundation of a free society. It's what makes the army a force for good. And if we consider recent events in Myanmar, we appreciate the value of that. But if through these acts every 5 years Parliament gives the army its life, we also owe it our duty. So I am proud to be supporting the quinquennial Armed Forces Bill, which uniquely among its many predecessors brings the Armed Forces Covenant not just into statute, but into the operations of the British state at the most local level. Because the personnel of our armed forces live, like everyone else, in local communities. And here I want to acknowledge the work of Wiltshire Council in recent years. The County Council was one of the first, if not the first, councils to sign the Armed Forces Covenant. This wasn't just because of the historic presence of the British Army on Salisbury Plain. It was because 4,000 soldiers and their families have come home to the UK from Germany over the last 10 years, all needing housing and healthcare and education for their children and civilian jobs for partners and communities for everyone. And the military civilian integration programme led by the MOD and Wiltshire Council has been a great success. And I particularly welcome the work that Councillor Chris Williams, our Armed Forces champion in Wiltshire, has done, and the wonderful new civic centre that's opening in Tidworth. Everyone I've spoken to on both sides of the civilian military divide has confirmed the programme has been a great success. And perhaps the best indicator of that is that the divide between the military and the civilian is not so huge as in former days. The famous phrase behind the wire, the fact that soldiers lived literally fenced off from the community that they're situated in, has less and less meaning in Wiltshire. So I welcome this bill and hope it continues the excellent work I see locally. But I echo my neighbour, my right honourable friend, the member for South West Wiltshire's point about the enforcement of the covenant under the new rules. I don't believe we need extra enforcement in Wiltshire, but there may be places which do, and it would be good to understand how the covenant will be enforced. Now, let me end, Mr. Deputy Speaker, with a word on the justice elements of the bill. I believe our army is the best in the world, but as many soldiers have told me, being the best means behaving the best. No one wants soldiers to have a carte blanche in foreign conflicts, and no one wants the army to be a law unto itself at home. So I welcome the strengthening of the army justice system. This bill will ensure our armed forces remain morally as well as operationally secure in our constitution, subject to Parliament, but also secure in the higher jurisdiction of right and wrong. And we can continue to have an armed forces that we can be proud of. Thank you.